to allow candidates for city council and school board within the city of Cincinnati to share their sustainability platforms and to be able to answer questions that we've collected from our community. So I'll tell you a little bit more about our format, and then I'll kick it off to Van Sullivan, our director of climate strategy and programs, who's going to facilitate the question and answer and keep everybody on track. So we are recording this forum, like I mentioned, so that we can have this for folks who were not able to attend. The questions that we're going to be asking today were collected from the co-hosts of our forum, which I will share with you in just a moment, and the general public. The candidates were randomly assigned to questions, and we'll be keeping time limits. So candidates will be given a 30-second warning before their time is up. And then be muted. So just a reminder to our candidates to pay attention to that time so that we don't have to cut you off in the middle of your statement. Before we get to the questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes to share their platforms. And tonight we have with us for Cincinnati City Council, Anna Albi, Ryan James, Mark Jeffries, Dawn Johnson, Liz Keating, Linda Matthews, Meeka Owens, and a representative from the Raffel Prophett campaign. And for Cincinnati Public Schools School Board, we have Kari Armbruster, Brandon Craig, and Marcia Futel. Our co-hosts tonight are organizations who are working across sustainability, climate, and other related issues in Greater Cincinnati. Van, do you mind going to the next slide on that one? And they include the American Institute of Architects, Cincinnati, Faith Communities Go Green, Groundwork Ohio River Valley, Housing Opportunities Made Equal, Local Initiatives Support Corporation, Greater Cincinnati, Tri-State Trails, Urban Native Collective, and several programs from Xavier University, including the Take It On Initiative, Brueggeman Center for Dialogue, and the Philosophy, Politics, and Public program. And these partners are all really critical to be able to pull together events like this, because we want to make sure that the questions we ask are covering a wide variety of issues and really representing questions that voters might have as it relates to a number of different issues that all kind of come together and play in the environment, climate, and sustainability space. So we are really excited to get started. Is there anything that I missed that I need to cover, Van?
You got it.
All right, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining. It's great to see you all. I'm going to reshare really quick because we had a quick slide update. But I would first like to invite one of our partners and co-hosts. We have a representative from the Youth Environmental Council who is going to ask our first question. And we've got 3 candidates. Again, as Ryan said, everyone was selected randomly. And Starnasia, would you like to come off camera and ask your question?
What are you doing to improve biodiversity in my city?
Wonderful, thank you. And Anna, Albi, you will be the first to answer.
Yeah, well, hi everyone. My name's Anna Albi. I'm running for re-election to Cincinnati City Council. My focus is mostly on gun violence prevention and food access. You can find out more at albiforcincinnati.com. But in terms of this, I'm really excited about this question because talking about how we can enhance growing more fresh food at the schools and in rec centers has been a passion project of mine. In fact, I've looked really deeply into the idea of how do we bring hydroponic farming into our schools and into our rec centers and across the city. Not only does this provide fresh food access across the city, but it also is a learning opportunity for kids and can help set kids up for jobs and careers in the space of farming and growing. So I'm really excited about that and creating more green spaces, because we also know the more we're able to put parks and public green spaces into the city, the safer our city will be if we're able to give people places to congregate and build community.
Wonderful, thank you. And next I will ask Brandon.
Alrighty. Again, thank you for hosting us tonight. I'm Brandon Craig. I'm running for re-election to the Cincinnati Public Schools Board. Again, craigforboard.com to learn more about me. But I think this is an interesting question for our school districts because I know we are struggling right now with trying to make sure that we provide experiences and opportunities for our students to think about new jobs and ways to do things in a 22nd century model. And fitting in this biodiversity thing really is a way to drive that. It's a way to think about how do we maintain sustainability? How do we create a better diet plan? How do we work with food waste within our schools? How do we ensure that every student learns about these things so they can consider the jobs of the future and the career paths that may come along down the way? So I've really been pushing for us to think about those things and uniting us up with relationships beyond that. I think the other part to this for me is that we also really have to think about how do we get our students in opportunities to experience those things because so many of our students travel so far to attend school. And so one of the focuses I'm really pushing right now is to make sure that we're able to create these opportunities more throughout our district so that our students have programs near their homes so they don't have to travel as far, they're able to participate in more activities and really be a part of their community in a way that will allow them to participate and learn and know and grow.
Wonderful. And Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having this forum, first of all, to Green Umbrella and all the partners. I think it's super important, especially in the macro environment, as supposedly climate change and sustainability aren't issues, which we all know are issues. So just very quickly, my platform, I talk about as safer, cleaner, greener. A lot of it are core quality of life issues. But relative to this specific question, I think, the big word here is biodiversity and how do we improve it? And the first place to start is obviously we need to protect green space because biodiversity can't be there without green space. A big part of that is removing invasive species, honeysuckle, which just completely decimates a lot of green space and takes over and destroys a lot of biodiversity. So I do think that is a part of it. We are exploring with the administration whether we can use even railroad funds to remove some of that because do you consider that current infrastructure and how do we address that issue? So removing that is critical because that leads to greater biodiversity. I've been doing a lot of work in and around the Mill Creek Valley in particular, which has dramatically improved. And talk about biodiversity, it is extremely biodiverse now. And I think part of improving it and maintaining that is getting people out into nature, getting them out on the Mill Creek where people see it. And once people see it and experience nature, they want to protect it. And that improves our culture of sustainability here in the city of Cincinnati. So all of those things need to happen. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for answering that question first. We like to kick everything off with our youth question. And we are now going to pivot to hearing platforms from candidates. And we're going to go alphabetical order, first hearing from our school board candidates, and then we're going to hear from our city council candidates. And so I'm going to stop sharing screen now so that we can see folks' faces. And I'm going to ask Kari Armbruster to share her platform first. And just a reminder for candidates, you have 2 minutes. I will come off camera when you have 30 seconds left, and you'll see me flag you when you have time up. And you can begin, Kari.
Great. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I am Kari Armbruster. I am running for Cincinnati Public School Board. I am a first-time candidate and parent to 3 CPS students. I am also a sustainability advocate. I spent 9 years with Kroger, and 5 of those years I helped develop, implement, and care for the Zero Hunger, Zero Waste program there. And so for me, sustainability is an incredibly important part of education. I have a lot of different things I want to do during my 4 years in school board terms, but I would really, really advocate for more sustainability learning to be brought in on site. So I have some really, really wonderful friends who work very closely with nature programming within schools. So having connected them already with CPS, I think is a really, really important step in making sure that our urban district has a lot of ability to get students out into the areas around their school and learning about nature that way. I also am really passionate about career tech, and that includes green jobs. So, making sure we're looking towards the future and allowing students to dream big, even starting with seventh grade, getting them exposed to potential future careers to help motivate them to stay in school through graduation. Yeah, so those are some of the bigger sustainability focused areas for me. I also really, really want to help bridge the gap for engagement with the community and the parents and caretakers in the district. As a parent myself, I understand the challenges of trying to navigate the district and am really passionate about helping to bridge that gap. Yeah, and Van is on the screen, so I'm going to wrap up now. But again, I'm Kari Armbruster. I'm running for Cincinnati School Board, and I would appreciate your support this fall. Right now, you can vote right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Kari. Next up is Brandon Craig.
Again, I'm Brandon Craig. I'm appreciating having, and I can't wait to have Kari on the board because I will no longer be the first letter in the alphabet to go on all these things. But I'm really running for re-election to the Cincinnati Public Schools Board because I believe there's a lot of work we still have to do to ensure our students are living in education and experiencing an education that is focused on the next generation. And so I talk a lot about building a 22nd century education system that really is focused on what are the jobs of the future, what are the things of the future that our students need to know and learn and be a part of. I believe every student should graduate not just with a diploma in one hand, but with a skill set in the other. And part of those skill sets are the things that we're building now, whether it's the community gardens that we have in our campuses, whether it's the culinary programs, whether it's the opportunities to learn and grow and experience new spaces and learn in new ways. It's important for our students to really be able to understand how their community works and how they can do that. But it's not enough to just do that. That's why we built up community learning centers in our district and been in the forefront of that so that our families also learn and experience those things, that they're a part of that student's experience so they can reinforce the lessons the students learn. As we go forward, there's a lot of things I believe we have to do to look at things like our transportation costs and ways that we get students to and from our city, from their homes to our schools throughout our city, in order to really make sure that they're able to utilize all of those great experiences and really build a strong education. I think the biggest thing that we have to be focused on as we go forward is making sure our students are achieving academically, prepared for when they leave our schools, and are ready to do that. So that's why I'm running for re-election to the school board.
Great. Thanks, Brandon. You guys are very concise. Just a reminder, I come off camera and you still have 30 seconds, but also if you're concise, you're concise. And last but not least for school board, we have Marcia Futel.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for hosting this evening. I'm Marcia Futel, and I'm asking for your vote between now and November 4th for the Cincinnati Public School Board. So I believe that the district is responsible and accountable to making sure our students are prepared for whatever careers and lifestyles they choose. And regardless of whatever they choose, they need to be able to do the basics. The basics being able to read, being able to communicate, and being able to make adult level decisions. And right now in Cincinnati Public School, that is not happening for all of our students. So I'm running to tear down the inequities and barriers that prevent all of our students from succeeding. I bring to the board 30 years of involvement in Cincinnati Public Schools in a variety of roles. I've served on committees throughout the district. I've trained parents. I currently sit on the Cincinnati, and I'm rocking because I have my mini campaign manager on my lap. And I have 3 children who have graduated from Cincinnati Public Schools. They have college degrees. They've been very successful. So I believe in our district, and I know our district can do better. I'm excited about this forum because I see opportunities for new and innovative careers. But on the other hand, we have to hold ourselves accountable for better academic outcomes, for improved community and parent engagement, because the parents are the customer of our district and we have to serve the families in our district, and the opportunity for transformative leadership that will sustain us throughout the next decades, and to make sure that we have the funding, make sure we have the staff, make sure we have all of the resources for our children to succeed. So again, I'm Marcia Futel, and I ask for your vote between now and November 4th for the Cincinnati Public School District. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now move to council, and to kick us off there will be Anna Albi.
Hi again. Thank you all for having us tonight and for this forum. I'm really proud to be endorsed by the Sierra Club and OEC. As I mentioned at the top, my focus is gun violence prevention, but bigger picture for me, when we talk about community safety, it comes back to, are people being paid enough to afford a roof over their head, fresh food on the table, and access to healthcare, and how we are creating safe spaces for kids to grow and thrive. And I want to talk about two of those pieces really briefly. One is on the housing front. We as a city need to do better when it comes to creating walkable neighborhoods. In fact, one of the greenest things we can do is create housing policy that supports dense walkable neighborhoods. And that's why I'm really proud of the zoning reform City Council did to not only increase density, but increase density along bus rapid transit lines, because if we can make it easier for people to get on the bus to go to and from work or play, that is a greener solution for a more sustainable future. And I also want to highlight the food piece. As I mentioned, this is something that when I go into a room to talk about gun violence, the conversation often comes back to, our kids are hungry, we don't have a grocery store. So I'm really proud to have led the charge with support of my colleagues to unlock over $1 million in funding for food access, specifically in our neighborhoods hit hardest by gun violence. And a big part of that looks like the Impact Award, where we have our community partners going in and building sustainable food networks in 8 of our neighborhoods hit hardest by gun violence. And what do I mean by sustainable food network? I mean creating an urban farm along with a community hub. So not only are you growing the fresh food, creating jobs that way, but also having the community hub where we can have that in the neighborhood distribution along with resources. So again, my name is Anna Albi. You can go to albiforcincinnati.com for more, because Albi for Cincinnati.
Great. Thank you, Anna. And next up, we have Ryan James.
Hello, hello. My name is Ryan James. I am running for Cincinnati City Council. I am running on opportunity, access, and trust. One thing I will say is I'm a newcomer endorsed by the Democratic Party, hoping to join our existing council and driving forward some of the green initiatives that are already going. I also have a few new ideas myself, which I'll get to, but I will say that a little bit about my background, because I'm a new face. This is a bit of a rival for me, is I've spent most of my career working in nonprofit and social services. I was most recently employed at the United Way of Greater Cincinnati as the Director of Strategy, helping steer our investments in community, particularly around housing. Before that, working with Easter Seals and Talbot House, particularly helping folks who shared time with the U.S. prison system find opportunities for employment. And then before that, leading programs with the Children's Defense Fund, making sure some of our most vulnerable young people had the same literacy opportunities over the summer as the kids across town. I will say that my campaign slogan here is building a Cincinnati that works for working people. So I'm very interested in finding opportunities to grow the green economy and find alignment between opportunities for working people and how they find themselves in the green economy. I think there's been a few really exciting programs in Chicago, New York, around Green Job Corps programs, offering those really meaningful job skills and like short-term educational increments that allow young people to get access to the green economy, which I think right now is a huge gap here locally. I think we have a lot of folks who would be viable participants and who would love to get employed. And I think we have excellent case studies here with programs like Building Futures and Youth Builders that we know that these programs are being piloted, they do work, and they are feasible here. I also believe we have alignment with our existing council in terms of getting these supported and getting these out. So I'm excited, but my name is Ryan James, and I'm running for Cincinnati City Council.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan. Next up, we have Mark Jeffries.
Excellent. Thank you. So I am Mark Jeffries. I'm running for re-election. This would be my 3rd term on council. I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club, OEC Action, As I mentioned earlier, my platform I talk about is safer, cleaner, greener. I'm not going to talk as much as the safer part, but let me talk the cleaner, greener, cleaner. Not only litter, but bulk illegal dumping is a huge issue in our city. There's an environmental aspect to that. We invest in bulk item pickup. It was one of the things I spearheaded with Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, which has reduced illegal dumping by 35%. It's an environmental justice issue also for a lot of communities that are subjected to this. On the greener part, my emphasis has been around and Councilwoman Owens did a great work around the Green Cincinnati plan. If you think about our carbon emissions and our goals, buildings is 60% of emissions, led work in partnership with Councilwoman Owens on energy benchmarking, which is a huge need for building efficiency to reduce carbon in buildings, which again is 60% of carbon emissions. Transit is another 30%. Pass complete streets, which today, incidentally, I'm Vice President of OKI. We passed $19 million of investment, mostly towards complete streets, Gilbert Avenue, Victory Parkway, Oasis Trail, etc. So big emphasis on complete streets, as well as I see Wade here at Tri-State Trails, the Crown, as well is a huge emphasis. In the last couple of years, also passed the Green Bank, established the Green Bank, which also trained energy auditors. Going forward, a big focus also on expanding energy, especially in renewable, especially the expansion at the Center Hill landfill, which is a huge project, and excited to continue to work on. I see Van back on, so I'm assuming that I have to cut it off. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark. And next up, we have, oops, sorry. We've got a couple candidates who are joining a little later, so I will now actually move to Meeka Owens.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Meeka Owens. I'm running for my third term to Cincinnati City Council. It's been one of my greatest honor, and I will say probably the greatest honor of coming into City Hall and chairing the first ever climate committee, keeping us accountable to the goals of the Green Cincinnati plan. And so having led through the passage of the 2023 plan, it is my highest priority to make sure that we continue to pursue the recommendations and the bold goals that we have laid out, because it is under the umbrella of climate where true justice lies. It traverses all of the topics that we're talking about, from housing to transportation to the built environment to building partnerships and advocacy. And so we must be real about how we get there, considering the federal climate that we are in right now. And I tell people that we're not gonna change our goals. We're gonna keep pursuing them. So at the top of the list for me is green jobs. And with the City of Cincinnati and the Chamber of Commerce, we did the green workforce analysis, which would say that we can produce up to 44,000 jobs with an $11 billion economic impact to this region. And so when we think about young people and our partnerships with CPS, this is a top priority for me, because we will install those solar panels on the Center Land Hill. We will make sure we produce more electricians to do this work and install HVACs and all the things. But it also means we want to make sure we're continuing to invest in renewable energy, that we are electrifying buildings, because as my colleague said, that is where an enormous amount of emissions come from. We want to make sure that the built environment includes making sure we're mitigating the urban heat island effect by planting more trees. At the top of my list, how do we get to 100% tree canopy? And finally, making sure that the investments that we're seeing from the railroad dollars do include green infrastructure, so that we are adapting to the ever-changing climate, absorbing more water, and being able to live in a resilient city at the end of the day. And so thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. As the other candidates who are joining a little later, we'll include their platforms towards the end of the event. So we're now going to move to our questions. And our first question is going to be, I'm actually going to bring up the screen again so that you all can have these questions in front of you. And I do apologize, I'm going to be changing have done randomizing for who is answering questions where we have candidates who aren't yet in attendance. I'm going to re-randomize just so you know, but I will currently share. And First up is a question dedicated to education. So the Green Cincinnati Plan outlines the following education goals. 100% of public schools have safe and accessible outdoor learning spaces by 2028, and 4,000 individuals trained for green economy jobs by 2028, or 800 per year over the 5 years of the plan. And this question is for our school board candidates. How do you plan to ensure Cincinnati Public Schools get students outdoors and we prepare students for future green job opportunities? And we'll start first with Kari.
Yay, I love this question so much. So this is something I am truly so excited for. I've been talking actually with current board member Eve Bolton about this issue already. As I mentioned, I have a good friend of mine that is literally in the business of building nature learning centers for students. And not only that, but training teachers on how to utilize them. And it is something that I think is incredibly important. My CPS students currently go to Indian Hill to Green Acres to learn all about nature and the environment, which is wonderful. It's an incredible program. But I would love for our students to be able to do that inside our city limits, and they can. And because we do have nature here in the city limits. And so building that curriculum to live within our district, I think will open the students' eyes to what is available to them in their school's backyard, in their own backyard, down the street at the park, because our parks are our own natural resource, right? So I think that this is an incredible goal. And as I said before, I do have a lot of energy around career planning and career training. I was previously on the board at Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, and their Boots to Roots program is something that I really believe in. And I think having the district partner with more agencies to expose our students to green jobs of the future. I know it's something really passionate for Meeka too. So partnering with the city to make sure those things happen is something I definitely will keep as a priority during my term on school board.
Great. Thank you, Kari. Next up, Brandon.
So I think one of the strongest things we've done as a district over the last couple of years is provide our students with an opportunity to shape their education and the direction they would like to go. And we've done that through expanding some of the outdoor educational opportunities for our students. We've done that through things like the Zoo Academy, as well as some of the recent investments at Aiken High School is another example. But I think the struggle, and I think as Kari mentioned, we have to create opportunities that every student in our district, no matter what zip code you are in, gets exposure to and an opportunity to learn. I think that's where we are going to see our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunities at the same time. Now, the real challenge in the district is that we're coming off a 25-year-old, or really more than 25-year-old facilities master plan. And so in order for us to truly make the investments into some of our buildings in order to be able to provide some of those opportunities, we're going to have to look at and think about how do we go out and get those additional revenue, and whether that's through future levies or whether that's through future partnerships and other opportunities to really be able to provide some of those experiences to our students. I think it's also, again, goes back to making sure that we're building up some of our career tech programming that will focus on some of these opportunities and some of the green jobs of the future. And that really starts with making better partnerships with our community partners who are doing this work, who can guide us, who can provide the space and opportunity for some of our students to get internships, as well as to learn the skills and develop. We've got a lot of work that we can do and that we will do and that we need to do to make sure our students get both the learning aspect of it, the academic side, as well as the career opportunities and knowledge.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Next up, Marcia.
Thank you. So as I was preparing for this forum, because this is not an area, it's an area I support, but not an area that's in my lane. So I did just some research and looking at what we do now. And so I agree with what's already been said in terms of what we currently do, some of our challenges, as well as some of the opportunities. Because currently right now we have 4 high schools that have agriculture and environmental systems programs in the career tech field. So that's exciting. But as Brandon said, it needs to be expanded. And when they finish these career tech programs, they need to be able to get the credentials to start to enter into those careers. But the other thing I thought about too, as I looked at this, is just the opportunities for some more broader partnerships. For an example, with great parks, because we have one of the best park systems in the nation. And so there's opportunities there to leverage some of that. And also, I saw that in last year, and Councilwoman Owens was a big part of this. There was the Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights that was passed at the City Hall, and so there's an opportunity there. And I would love to support the opportunity to partner with the city to start to implement some of those wonderful ideas that include getting our children out and playing and being outdoors and getting fresh air so that they're healthier and stronger, to get them active, as well as learning about their environment. So it's rich with opportunities, and I would love to be a part of championing those things as a board member. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I will now invite Kelsey Hawkins Johnson from Groundwork Ohio River Valley. She's the Climate Safe Neighborhoods Director there, and she will ask our next question.
Hi, good evening. What strategies would you prioritize to address resilience and emergency management needs for the city?
And first up is Mark.
Thank you. So I think what I'd say about this resilience, it's guided by the Green Cincinnati Plan. So I think the Green Cincinnati Plan has strategies for addressing first climate and especially carbon reduction. As we mentioned earlier, if you think about, because ultimately with climate change, the result is lack of resilience. And so I think the first is investing in energy benchmarking, trying to get energy costs down in buildings, which again is 60%. 30% again is transportation. So between those two, it's 90% of our carbon emissions. And on transportation, it's expanding Metro, which we've invested in as a community, supporting BRT, which I've been a big advocate for, bus rapid transit, which will only get more cars off the road as people use our transit system. Expanding alternative modes of transit, i.e. the Crown and others that allow people to use other modes of transit. So that again reduces carbon emissions, all towards resilience. The other thing that I would say is on resilience is we have not rewritten our hilltop regulations since 1970. So I put forward one of my budget priorities a couple of years ago was $100,000 to rewrite our hilltop regulations, because 1970 rain data, this was written with a typewriter. Things have changed. We have a lot more rain. And as we well know, we are a city of hills. And as a result, there's a lot of building on hills. And if we don't have the right regulations in place, then we won't be resilient and making sure that we are building in accordance with 2025 standards. And as a result, be more resilient. I see Van on, so I stopped. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Great. And we have a representative from Raffel Prophett's campaign. We're going to just pause for a second on the Q&A because she needs to depart at 6:15, but she is going to take a couple minutes. Raffel wasn't able to join due to medical emergency, but she still wants to introduce his campaign. So I'll now pass it to Bertha, and you have 2 minutes, just like all the other candidates.
Thank you. I may even have time back because this is not my forte. I'm not a candidate, and just found out right around 5:30 I needed to join. Because Raffel has as was said, a medical emergency in his family. I am his campaign manager. Raffel Prophett is a candidate for the city council, and he does have an advanced degree in sustainability. Again, showing he is an advocate, of course, for the environment, and urban sustainability and resilience is where his degree is in. He's also endorsed by the Ohio Sierra Club. And he would say his journey into being, I'll use the term broadly, an environmentalist began, he said, the first time he saw his daughter take her first breath. And that changed everything for him and why he decided to pursue a degree in this area. His platform is economic opportunities, safety, and housing that's affordable. And as a retired veteran and firefighter district chief, he is willing to fight for the citizens of Cincinnati, and everything. I think, Meeka, you said this, sort of the environment with none of the other things on the platform really make any sense if we don't have a healthy environment for all of us. So, of course, it's important to him. He's willing to fight. You can learn more at www.prophett4cincy.com. Raffel Prophett for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining, Bertha. Hope everything is okay. And we appreciate you joining. All right. I'm now going to return to our questions. And next up, we are going to be hearing from this is actually two candidates who are not quite here yet. So I'm going to move to our next one, and I'm going to invite, we have Valerie Daly from LISC Greater Cincinnati here to ask our next question.
Thank you, Van. So this question is, as housing costs across our city rise, how will you make sure that our efforts to expand affordable housing also advances climate justice? Think about things like energy upgrades and neighborhood improvements that benefit all residents, not just new residents and new development. Councilmember Owens?
Thank you. I appreciate this question. Housing stabilization and producing stock is pretty important as it relates to affordability. So one, we're going to make sure we continue to invest in the Affordable Housing Leverage Fund, but also as it relates to how we address our old housing stock in the city of Cincinnati. As we think about renters, we're 62% renters, which is why a lot of my work around Tenants' Bill of Rights is so important, because there are building conditions that are also attached to things like evictions and why people might not be paying rent. And so, but we also have housing providers who are those small mom and pop folks that that are in it for the right reasons and want to do the right things. And so making sure that we have resources to be able to make those improvements, like what they're doing in Philadelphia, that would also help to stabilize rents, would also help to reduce evictions, but being able to do things like upgrades, solar panels, green roof, whatever it is, we need to make sure we provide the resources for not just, again, those big developers, but also the mom and pops. So this is work that I'm actively pursuing and seeing how we can pull some of those pieces, again, of what they're doing in Philadelphia to here in Cincinnati. That also is a workforce implication on that too, because we need to make sure that we have the contractors that are able to make these improvements. And so ultimately it is about incentivization. And so this is a very critical area.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Kari, who flagged that because I needed to pivot for a second there, I forgot to ask our resilience question to the two other candidates listed on this slide. So I will now go back to Kari, if you can please answer this resilience question.
No problem. I was all excited to talk about resilience. And I did want to give a shout out. I think I saw on the attendee list Kathleen Smythe, who I don't know if she remembers me, but she taught my first ever sustainability class when I was in college. Very long time ago. So love to see her still involved in this work. But for CPS, I think resilience and emergency management is actually a really complex issue, because we have our facilities master plan is 25 years old. And so a lot of our buildings have not received massive upgrades in a very long time. And so looking to the future and what that looks like in a world where we have decreasing resources each and every day is really difficult. But I have seen, like, I was in Euler this week and they lost power, but we're operating on a generator. I've been in my own building where they've lost air conditioning for days at a time, which in massive heat waves can be really dangerous for students. A loss of internet, things like this really impact our schools and our students' ability to learn. So as we are looking to the future and our master facilities planning and what we're doing, bringing in more sustainable energy, bringing in more green technology, things like that are going to be really, really important to build our schools to be able to withstand what the future of our energy usage, our climate impacts are going to be. I know Mark talked a lot about rain. We have to think really heavily about what snow is going to be doing to our winter days. This past year, our students were off for like an extra 2 weeks in January because of snow, and the ability to remove it from our streets is going to be really important. So making sure that we're working with the city to be able to clear streets for our students to be able to get safely to and from school is also something we should be thinking about. Yeah, it has a massive impact on our students being able to receive education consistently. And so climate change and green energy are two massive issues that the schools are going to have to face in the next planning phase.
Great. Thank you so much. Next up will be Ryan.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic question. I want to kind of like Mark said, I think the issue with resiliency is that we need more of it, or there are barriers to accessing it. I will say that there are areas in which we need, I think, creativity and innovation, and there are areas in which we need more execution. When it comes to creativity and innovation, I think there's new ideas that we need to drive forward, like having neighborhood resiliency hubs. Right now, if there's anything from a heat wave to a power outage to accessing basic resources, I think we need more collaboration with our recreation centers and libraries to make sure that we have 52 neighborhoods, 52 plans for residents when they are in a state of crisis. I think in terms of areas that we need more execution, I think we've already piloted ideas like greenways. I think we've seen success with LIC Run. I think that those resources like that have already paid off in terms of lowering the impacts of flooding in areas like Mill Creek. I think it's time to take those opportunities and scale them up. I think it's time to see more greenways in Cincinnati, and particularly in areas that are high incident zones for flooding. We know when environments suffer, our most vulnerable residents tend to suffer as well. So I think it's not just a green priority, but it's an equity priority as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan. And we've had another candidate join us. And so I am now, before she answers her first question, going to ask Liz Keating to please introduce herself. You have 2 minutes to share your platform, and then you will actually ask your first question because your question's up next.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Liz Keating. I am a previous city council member. I served on council from 2020 to 2024. I am a mom. I've got 2 kids, ages 4 and 6. And my time on council previously, I was focused on economic development, getting down to the basic services and getting them done right. And one of the projects that I led was our innovation in government, where we worked with community, our startup ecosystem, to innovate in sustainability ways to drive new technologies and new ideas that help create new efficiencies within local government, but also done in a more green, sustainable way to help our environment as well. I've worked on projects in brownfield remediation, working on missing middle housing along public transit lines. And I am also proud to say that I am endorsed by the Environmental Council. So really proud to be here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Great. And so you will now have your first question, Liz, related to water and waste. And so this comes from a local resident who submitted a question, and this comes from Larry, who resides in Pleasant Ridge. So dumping sewage in rivers and streams became illegal with the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972. After spending more than 50 years and $2 billion working on the problem, MSD is still charging more than 6 billion gallons of untreated sewage each year, down from a peak of 14 billion gallons. What are your ideas for how this problem can be solved both faster and cheaper?
Yeah, happy to have that question. Thanks for the opportunity. When I was on council before, I did a lot of projects with MSD and our wastewater management, particularly when it came to extreme storms and being able to manage the sewage overflow, which created a lot of environmental issues. And a lot of the projects, number one of the biggest things that we found a lot of movement on is continuously bringing the conversation to the forefront. Hosting community meetings. We did public forums every year talking about extreme storms and the updates that were happening. And then also looking to our partners in the state and federal government to be able to get more resources down to be able to innovate. And MSD and wastewater management has done a lot of innovation in that space in finding ways to divert some of the water in the extreme storms to be able to manage the overflow coming. Oakley is one of them. It's basically like a balloon that blows up that they can divert water one way versus another way to be able to manage the overflow. And it's simple innovations like that where we can partner with our startup ecosystem in Cincinnati, partner with our state and federal government partners where there's a lot more resources and a lot more money in this space to be able to continue to give the resources to our local government and local partners to be able to innovate and grow. And that's where I want to be able to come in, is to be able to bring these different groups to the table to be able to continue to push this forward, keep the conversation in the forefront, and innovate to be able to continue to get better.
Great. Thank you, Liz. And now on to our next question, which, Ryan, it looks like will be just for you. And so this question comes from a collection of partners who are part of the Green Space Alliance. So the Green Cincinnati Plan outlines the need to maintain the city's 40% urban tree canopy while expanding the canopy to 40% residential, 25% mixed-use industrial, and 10% central business district. How do you plan to both preserve and expand the tree canopy in Cincinnati region for greater environmental resiliency and community health?
Yeah, I think there's a few different mechanisms at play here, but I will say that I think it is as simple as making it a high-level budget priority. I think that it's an exciting use of some of our railroad's funds is to be able to expand our tree canopy in Cincinnati, because we know it has so many ecological benefits, but also has quality of living benefits for our residents as well. Something I'm particularly passionate about is not just making sure that we get the tree canopy up, but making sure that those trees are preserved over time. I know that I'm a resident of the West End, and we have countless trees that, it's exciting to have a few neighborhoods or a few nooks in the West End with canopy coverage, but the roots have grown up our sidewalks, making them not wheelchair accessible, making them a tripping hazard for particularly our elderly, but folks of any caste. So I will say that making sure that we make it a budget priority, we see it expanded equitably across our 52 neighborhoods, and we also focus on preservation with our existing tree canopy.
Great, thank you. And we have yet another candidate who has joined us. And so Jan Michelle, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you'll have 2 minutes to share your platform, and then this same question will go to you.
Hi, so I'm Vice Mayor Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney. I'm sorry I'm running in late and probably running out in a few minutes, but you all are really important, and I did not want to miss you. So I was appointed to Cincinnati City Council in 2020. I ran in 21 and 23, and this is my third run for council, and it's really an honor to serve. I can tell you when we passed the ordinance for connected communities, I don't think it's all bad. Let me just say that. I voted against it because I felt we weren't ready, listening to the residents who had concerns, and one of them was environmental concerns. And so we with Scotty Johnson and Victoria Parks, we started making connected communities better. And there were 5 working groups: affordable housing, accessibility, infrastructure, neighborhood look and feel, and environment. So we had volunteers, about 300 from the community who worked on these different issues. And the environmental group had a lot of really good policy suggestions that they're shopping around actually with several council members to get them through. I said, let's share the love. So I'll share some of those policy suggestions with you tonight. But I think, the work that Green Umbrella does is very important. And, our environment is key. There are a lot of inequities. This is part of the reason our environmental problems in low-income neighborhoods is part of the reason that zip code determines lifespan. And so we really have to work on that. Avondale, near Children's Hospital, has one of the highest rates of asthma, which is personal to me because my son suffers from asthma. We live in Avondale. But a lot of that is because of too many of these particulates in the environment. And now we're paying attention to it. So I'm really proud of the Green Cincinnati plan and the work that our citizens have done in that area.
Great, thank you. And you will now have 2 minutes to answer this green space question.
So the question is, how do we increase the tree canopy?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just say, from the Making Communities Better working group, they have 4 suggestions, all of which I support. So one of them is to adopt a tree protection ordinance, so that people can't just chop down trees. This has happened really kind of frequently in the city when trees, we years ago planted trees that have grown into our sidewalks and ruined the sidewalks, but instead of doing some kind of repair that fixes the sidewalks, we've chopped down the trees. And so that practice needs to stop, and we've gotten a lot of complaints about that. Another is to require curb strips with trees and grass so that it's actually a requirement. Another suggestion was replacement of removed trees through a tree bank. I think that would be excellent. You just saw, I think it was yesterday, people picked up trees that they had reserved several weeks ago. But to have a tree bank where these trees are available throughout the year would be really fantastic. Another suggestion was to protect heritage trees, large native trees. And so that's something we should really think about. And then finally, and this is actually the 5th one, I said 4, but the 5th one's suggestion was to adopt trees in parking lots. And so to make that required, we do have some requirements for our surface parking lots that have to do with shrubbery and, beautification such as that, but we don't require trees. And so that would be something we should do. And it's true, it really makes a difference in terms of health, where a lot of low-income neighborhoods don't have trees, and so they're 10% hotter in the summer, and there are a lot of runs to the emergency room because of that.
Great, thank you so much. We will now move to our next question, and this will be, I believe, our last question for hearing from all 3 of our oh wait, no, it's not. Just kidding. Don't listen to me. I forgot some stuff got moved around. So our next question is related to community engagement, and this has specifically come from a collection of partners who are working on greener schools and are really interested to learn more about addressing decision-making processes. And so the question is, procedural equity focuses on strategies that address power structures and access to participation in decision-making. The goal is to establish equitable, inclusive, and meaningful engagement. What improvements to community engagement and decision-making processes would you prioritize to better include underrepresented and frontline communities in city and school efforts related to climate justice? And this is specifically from the schools community. And so, Kari, you are up first.
I'm beginning to understand why Brandon's happy that I'm around to go first. This is a really important one. I think I, as a parent and an engaged parent in the district, I have found it difficult to get an understanding of what's happening at the district at times. And so if I'm having trouble with it, I know that others are as well. And so I think there's so much more the district can do to engage not just the caregiver and family community, but the broader community, including students, on important issues and decision making. And climate justice is definitely one of those. And so what it looks like can be a variety of things. I think very specifically when we're talking through stuff on school board agendas. I don't know how familiar all of you are with the meeting process, but they meet on Monday evenings. There is a public comment portion, but it is limited to online and in person. And the online, you have to be online at the very beginning. You have to like raise your hand and type in your information. And if you miss that, then you don't get to speak. And so trying to figure out how to allow for public comment on agenda items ahead of the meeting so that people that are busy on Monday evenings or have other things going on still are able to have their voice heard on those very specific issues, I think is really important. Going into schools and talking directly to students about really important topics that are going to impact them directly is always going to be a first opportunity for me. I, not coming from an education background, am not going to pretend like I know what it is like to run a classroom or to run a school or to be a student, because I haven't been a student in a classroom for a very long time. So I think learning and listening from those important community groups is going to be something that I take very seriously.
Great, thank you. Next up is Brandon.
So I think community engagement for me serves kind of two purposes in our district. And one is to engage folks who otherwise would not be fully informed and fully participatory in the things that we do in our district. And then I think community engagement is about providing us an opportunity to gather more knowledge and understanding that otherwise would be left out of these discussions. And so I fought very hard when we were doing our first phase of our growth plan to make sure that we were talking with parents and make sure we were explaining to parents what was happening in our district. And I think we have to do that more. We have to be willing to have some forums where we just sit down as a board and talk to parents, but we have to make sure that our superintendent and the administration is also engaging our parents and engaging the community around them to ensure that there's meaningful information being gained, but also meaningful information being shared with us. The second part for me, though, that I really think preaches out to this idea of giving more efforts related to climate justice is that there is a lot that our students are telling us already. We've had students come to our hearing of the public to speak on these things. We've had a lot of passion be shared by our students and their goals and hopes. We need to listen. We need to make sure that we're providing academic and post-academic support for those students. The final thing I will say, and it really gets into our community engagement, is that we can use our community learning space model to really build upon opportunities to better understand from LSDMCs, from other community partners, from our resource coordinators, how to best utilize those resources in each school individually. That's the only way you can do this. You can't make a one fit for every school. And so that would be my focus, is to really try and bring that as well to the table.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Marcia.
So as I think about this question, and I would definitely agree with what's already been shared by both Kari and Brandon. The other thing I would add to this is that when we talk about engagement and discussions and listening, we make assumptions that people understand the topic. So when you're talking about the communities that you have here in your question, the underrepresented and in frontline communities, we have to first of all make sure they understand, what do we mean by climate justice, and have a definition of that 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 resonates with them, that makes it clear to them what we're trying to talk about, so that they can properly engage. One of the frustrations I've had over the 30 years I've been involved with the school district is, using acronyms and terminology that if you don't use it in your day-to-day discussions, people won't understand. And so let's start with that basic definition. And then also, I agree that we do need to engage more, we need to talk more, but we also need to have do more listening, do more incorporating of what we hear in those decisions. So while this is specific to climate justice, that whole community engagement uh, process has to be meaningful, equitable, and inclusive, and it has to be meaningful and equitable and inclusive to the community, which includes the people that live around the schools, the people who have kids in the schools, and the students themselves. So we have to just start with, are we all on the same page of what this topic is? And then let's have a dialogue and exchange of ideas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next up is going to be a question that came from a community member named Catherine in Evanston. And so this question will be for Meeka Owens and Liz Keating. How would you ensure immigrant and refugee voices are included in future city school district climate resilience planning? And relatedly, how would you strengthen partnerships between the city school district and local organizations that serve immigrant and refugee communities?
Yeah.
And first up will be Meeka.
Great. No, I appreciate this question. I think it's work that is happening, and it's also rooted in the foundation of engagement that really makes the Green Cincinnati Plan the Green Cincinnati Plan. It is through those organizations like Climate Safe Neighborhoods that have been on the front lines of making this a conversation that includes all people, which is why racial equity being rooted as one of the 3 main pillars of the Green Cincinnati Plan. So I think we keep investing in those type of organizations. We keep investing in immigrant serving organizations, which, by the way, as a result of, unrelated topic, but related in terms of how we are strengthening partnerships and leveraging that and using city dollars to do so, we make sure that we supported immigrant communities to fund Know Your Rights campaigns as immigrant communities are scared right now as a result of what we're seeing coming out of this federal government. So I think now more than ever, resilience is also about building community. And again, it goes back to the built environment. And so when we're thinking about spaces like third spaces and resilience hubs in communities, it's for all people. And so certainly as we think about our immigrant community, we're putting extra arms and resources around how we communicate, how we connect, and how we really lift them up, which is echoing that we are a city that is inclusive and diverse and welcoming.
Great. Thank you, Meeka. I forgot that I needed to refresh this slide because due to candidates coming and joining, we had to shift some randomizers around. So Mark, you'll actually be on this slide as well, but I will move to Liz Keating next.
Thank you for the question. I think number one, starting with critical partners who can help connect us from the city level to include them in conversations. And one that I think of all the time is Compass, led by Brian Wright, that's through the chamber, that provides those resources for our immigrant communities to be able to connect them into our business community and workforce development, but then also the city. And I think one of the, for the connection with schools and the city, I think one of the most important ones that we have is our rec centers, because those are such critical assets that we have in our neighborhoods that are directly tied to all the residents and help us in a really good way be able to connect and get more people and more voices heard. And I think we have a really good opportunity here because right now the state of Ohio has more jobs than they actually have people. And that is true for Cincinnati, and it's going to be even more true for Cincinnati as we move forward, as you look at these major infrastructure projects coming, like you have the Brent Spence Bridge, you have the Western Hills Viaduct, so much money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that is spurring a lot of housing development, and then particularly now with zoning changes, being able to build more housing and in that missing middle housing to create more pathways to home ownership. But all that brings along more opportunities for jobs, whether it's in construction or engineering or we need electricians and we need welders. There's so many different jobs that are going to be that need to be filled because we don't have enough people here. And that's where our relationships with these organizations are going to be critical, because these are great opportunities to be able to bring in our immigrant communities, create these job opportunities, and be able to grow as an economy and as a city together. And I think that creates so much more resiliency, because we are building, we are growing together, and creating more generational wealth and opportunities, economic opportunities as we move forward. And those relationships with groups like Compass are critical to that.
Great, thank you so much. And Mark.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I would say my answer on this is different today than it would be a year ago. Because clearly over the last year since the Trump administration has come on, there's just a lot of fear in immigrant communities, in refugee communities, and as a result, fear of speaking out. So I've been walking all the 52 neighborhoods. I've walked all through the West Side. As I go into a lot of supermercados and other places, and say, hey, I'm just a councilman and want to hear what kind of things you need from the city. People honestly do not want to talk because they fear, I am from the government. So I think we have to recognize that first as a fact, that there's a lot of fear in refugee and immigrant communities. And as a result, I think we need to rely on trusted partners at the ground level. In whether it's Santa Maria or Refugee Connect, organizations that are working directly with refugees, and in order to make them feel comfortable to share their voices on issues relative to resilience and climate resilience. So I think we need to take a different tack than maybe we did a year ago, because I think we need to make sure folks in the immigrant and refugee community feel comfortable that there's not going to be any ramifications if they come forward or, speak out, because we do need their voices here in the city, and make sure that we embed them within our planning for climate resilience.
Great, thank you. Our next question is in a similar vein, and Anna, Albi, and Marcia will be who answer this question. So this question comes from our colleagues at the Urban Native Collective, Brianna Mazzolini Blanchard, their executive director. They are a partner on this forum, but as you know, Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day, so they are very busy right now. So we're going to ask the question on behalf of UNC. And the question is, how do you plan to amplify and integrate Indigenous concerns and expertise around climate resiliency and adaptation as a priority? And Anna, you will be first.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Am I on camera? I went off video, sorry. Hopefully I'm back.
Yes, we see you.
Okay, great. No, I think this is a great question. I think it starts by bringing voices to the table and engaging communities who, frankly, historically have, been overlooked, and making sure that they are engaged and welcome to be part of the planning process. Our Green Cincinnati plan is a wonderful blueprint for much of the work that we as a city are doing to make Cincinnati more sustainable over the next decade or so. But we realize that those projects and the impacts of climate changes felt differently across different communities. So I think step one is bringing them to the table to understand, what are we missing right now? What are we not thinking about because we haven't historically engaged all the voices who have a stake in the community? And Ohio is just such an amazing historical space with its own unique climate needs, and this is a community that can really provide a lot of insight. Thank you.
Great. And next is Marcia.
Yeah, coming off of mute and camera. So to answer that from a potential school board member perspective, how to amplify and integrate the Indigenous people's concerns and expertise around this. We would first have to engage that population within our district, and I see it as an opportunity to even learn what their concerns are, what they are bringing to the table. And in this arena where diversity, equity, and inclusion is being devalued, I see it as an opportunity for all of us to learn more about what they value and what they want to see around, especially around these hot topics of climate resiliency, because as has been already stated, this is something that we all need to prioritize and put at the forefront of everything. So from a school board perspective, I look at this question as one of an opportunity to learn more about the people, the culture, what is important, and what are their concerns, so that we can integrate them and make them a higher priority than they are today. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I would like to invite Wade Johnston, the Executive Director of Tri-State Trails, to ask our next question, and Meeka and Ryan will answer.
Thanks, Van. I've got a little bit of lengthy context for this one, so bear with me. Cincinnati has taken unprecedented steps to increase options for residents to safely and conveniently navigate the city without the need for a car. The Crown is connecting our trail network to many of Cincinnati's neighborhoods. Metro is planning bus rapid transit. The city has made the streetcar free, and the city has made big investments in pedestrian safety to slow down vehicles in neighborhoods. The Connected Communities legislation seeks to position transit corridors in neighborhood business districts for growth. These are locations where people can feasibly live without a car or in a car-light lifestyle. What is your position on connected communities? And if elected, what action steps will you take to make it easier for residents to live without access to a vehicle?
Great. Meeka, you can go next.
Super. I'm glad for this question because we often forget that the passage of this policy was really rooted as a climate policy. When we think about equity, we cannot forget that transportation equity is a part of the conversation. And so when it costs money to own a car, repair a car, all of the things, these are the policies that move Cincinnati into the 21st century. Let me just parallel that with the fact that when we're looking at our the data around our eviction prevention work, because we're giving people access to an attorney and rental assistance, the number one reason that people don't pay their rent is because they have something like a car expense or an unplanned funeral expense. And so we are getting to the root of not only climate, but we're getting to the root of the cost of living at the end of the day. And so it's quite exciting when you can move people, not just cars, to the things that they need, like housing, like healthcare, like education, like training. This is what responsible cities do that understand that climate does have a disproportionate impact on communities. And so that's why I fully supported Connected Communities, not only as a transportation climate policy, but as a housing policy as well, to make sure that we're increasing the density, which also increases the supply, which lowers costs. So smart policy at the end of the day is what will keep this city being resilient.
Thank you. And my apologies, I was updating since we've had new candidates join. I've added Jan Michelle to this question as well. And you'll also answer the last question, which is next, Jan Michelle, just so you know. And apologies that it said Jan Michelle Keating there for a second. I was also making sure I added Liz to a question. So Ryan, you will be next.
Yeah, I think at its core, Connected Communities was a piece of density legislation that was very, very, very well intended. I will say that, and I find myself highly in line with some of the intention and goals of Connected Communities. One is in order for residents to just not lean on cars so much as we tend to do in the Midwest here. I will say that there's a few different things that we can deploy in order to make a more walkable or a more micro mobile communities here in Cincinnati. I think first and foremost, we do need to, just like connected community address, I think we need to continue to look at zoning density and making sure that we're allowing accessory dwelling units, any policies that allow our everyday working folk, not our large scale property owners and managers, to make housing options more accessible for our residents. Next, I will say that we need to see equitable development in our business districts. I think this is inseparable, very similar to what Councilmember Owens said. I think this is inseparable from our green priorities. I also think it's inseparable from our public safety priorities, because the same communities that are advocating time and time again that public safeties are concerned are the same neighborhoods that are advocating that disinvestment and blighted properties are also a concern. So I think we need to understand that there is a connection to density and green outcomes. There's a connection between density and public safety. But I think the key piece here is making sure that across our 52 neighborhoods, we have, in Cincinnati, we want safe, fun, accessible places to work, live, and play, and making sure that you do have that coffee shop. You do have, we limit the amount of food deserts here in Cincinnati, which our current council is doing some fantastic work in addressing. But I think we need to look at livability comprehensively and making sure that we have the same strategic priorities across our 52 neighborhoods to make walkability a goal. I will also say, from my experience as a social worker, particularly working with folks who have shared time with the U.S. prison system, folks who are trying to re-enter and gain access to employment opportunities. When I started that job, I thought it would be a lot of resume workshops, mentorship opportunities, partnering with organizations like maybe Dress for Success Cincinnati. We think about that bootstrapping efforts, and it's funny because that role was the complete antithesis, right? It was addressing these upstream barriers that our residents face, like transportation. If the public transportation doesn't go to the job site, then there's no opportunities for employment for our residents. So I think we need to look at livable communities as the answer.
Great, thank you. And Jen Michelle, you now have 2 minutes to answer this question.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying. Okay, I've unmuted. All right, good. Connected communities. So I've always said, let me start by saying I voted against connected communities, but not because I didn't think there were a lot of good ideas in it. Increasing density in our business districts along transit corridors is wonderful. We need that. I voted against it because I said it's like a steak. I love steak, but I felt it wasn't quite ready. And that's why we started the working groups of making connected communities better to address some of the issues, including environmental issues, accessibility, affordable housing, neighborhood look and feel, and infrastructure that had not yet been addressed. So I thought it needed more work, and it's getting more work. Even though it passed, we're continuing to actually do that work. And so I think that is a plus. In terms of I think Wade asked a question about the tri-state trails. This is really phenomenal for the whole project is phenomenal for many reasons. One is that the idea of connecting all of our communities, all of our neighborhoods with these walkable, bikeable trails is really fantastic. And I don't know of any other city that's actually done this. I mean, I think this is really, a really pioneering work. I mean, it's just outstanding. And so I'm really excited about that. It also promotes health. It promotes community activity where people get together. I mean, when you're out there walking, sometimes you see some of the same people. Eventually you stop to talk to them, you get to know them, and it brings communities together. It really brings unity in our city, and I love that. It really connects us. The other part of it is that as we become less
Sorry, that does mean
dependent
time.
on cars.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Am
Oh.
I? Okay, should I just close up with this one statement? I just want to
Yeah.
say, as we become, less dependent on cars, I think we have the means of doing that by looking at how we can make our transportation better, our public transportation better, because we always have to look at, is it accessible? And so things like metro access that will pick up people and take them around their neighborhood, I think is very important, or actually get them to the bus and get them home. Those things are important. In Sedamsville, for example, people don't have access to a grocery store. So this council pushed for Metro service to pick folks up and get them to Delhi so that they could shop at the Kroger because they were shopping at the Speedway. And so those kinds of things, we have to be really mindful to make sure that that there's equity and that everybody's included. And that will help us be less dependent on cars.
Thank you. And Meeka.
I went first, didn't I?
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. I'm
Thanks.
just all over the place right now with timers and candidates. All right, thank you. Our last question, taking us home here. And this came from a community member who lives in East Price Hill. Her name is Nancy. And so this will be for Jan, Michelle, Liz, and Anna. What will council do to fund some of the critical programs recently defunded, like community energy projects? And so Jan, Michelle, you are first.
Oh, okay, great question. And let me just say, for example, Center Hill, 65 acres in Winton Hills used to be the Procter & Gamble site. We were very excited about the solar project that was going to happen there to provide solar energy for 1,200 homes in the Winton Hills area. I mean, that's huge. And then the federal government pulled $10 million. But we are not stopping there. We are going to get this project done. That means we have to look for other funding sources. I've been told there's still a possibility due to a lot of lawsuits that are going on now that we might get some of that federal money back. But meanwhile, we're looking for private-public partnerships to actually get this project done. So when you see that funding has been pulled, it doesn't mean we've given up on the project. We're looking for funding. We'll look in our budget to see what we can move around, to see what resources we have, and then we'll look outside city coffers to see what else we can do. There are also grants out there. So we are, we're not giving up. And our city manager and, our superstar grant writer, Morgan Sutter, and many of our partners are in on this with us. Our Office of Environmental Sustainability is pushing us and saying, let's get this done. And so we are going to get it done.
Great, thank you. Next up, Liz.
There we go. I think I'm on. There we go. Yeah, I think these projects are critical. We know with our other solar farm how much money it's saving city dollars, and the numbers show that, and that saves so much taxpayer dollars to be able to invest in other areas. So it's critical to continue to move these projects forward. I think one of the biggest opportunities is having these public-private partnerships where you can partner with the business community. You can partner, as I was saying in an earlier question, the startup ecosystem to innovate in other ways that can be funded from other sources. Maybe it's opportunities that we can actually create new companies to be able to build these things and move forward on these projects. And so then you're growing companies, you're seeding the funding here through these other private entities and bringing in more venture capital into Cincinnati and doing it on our own. There's ways that you can innovate, and then you create jobs and you grow and drive new revenue to Cincinnati while you are doing these projects that are critical to, one, good for the environment, but two, saving taxpayer dollars. And so I think that it's focusing on the work and the partnership with the business community and the startup ecosystem and open up doors through venture capital to figure out a way to do it on our own.
Great, thank you. And Anna, you will be our final answer for this evening.
It's a lot of pressure. Well, let me first start by simply saying there's a reason for the federal government, right? The city of Cincinnati alone cannot plug the hole left behind from the federal government pulling out of important programs. And that's across the board, whether that's cutting SNAP benefits, access to Medicaid, infrastructure projects, or green energy projects. The Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress are attacking sustainability projects across the board. right? This latest congressional budget was almost, tried to gut the sustainable energy industry, and we are feeling it. We had a conversation this week about how we can do energy aggregation to help save money for local businesses and residents. And at the end of the day, the conversation came back to, hey, the Inflation Reduction Act had guaranteed these kind of tax benefits and federal funding. Now that that's not available anymore, we're kind of working through these other processes. So I just wanted to set the stage of what's happening at that federal level and really dig into that, but say, yes, the city of Cincinnati is still committed to the Green Cincinnati plan. We're not going to be able to make up all the dollars that the federal government is defunding these big programs, but yes, we'll partner with public-private partnerships. But then also the city of Cincinnati, this Democratic Council, we actually set up a revolving fund specifically to help capitalize on these sustainability projects. So what we did is we put initial funding in, and then as these green sustainability projects captured cost savings, it went back into this fund to help fund future works. So we're going to keep doing that across the board while trying to go out and fundraise, whether it's with private partnerships, foundations, whatever that looks like, to keep this critical work going.
All right. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate all of our candidates being here, as well as everyone who tuned in to be voters who feel ready to make decisions about the amazing candidates that we have running for office in the city of Cincinnati this fall. Of course, everyone knows, but just as a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. So please make sure you get out and vote anytime before the close of the polls on that day. We've got lots of options for early voting, and you can tune into resources that are available on WVXU or with Hamilton County Board of Elections to make sure you have all the information you need about what issues and candidates are on the ballot in the community that you live in. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you to all of our partners who made tonight possible.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Have a great night.